Hi everyone, I'm Katie Couric, and I want to say a big thank you to everyone for joining us for this very special evening. And I'm pleased to be here to welcome you and set the stage for tonight. We'll be honoring the legacy of Ellen Stovall, and we'll also be recognizing two individuals who are carrying on Ellen's life's work to improve cancer care for everyone touched by this disease. Years ago, I had the opportunity to interview Ellen about her personal and professional passion, advocating for people living with cancer and their families. And I was so inspired by her dedication. I suspect most of you joining tonight have a cancer story to tell, whether cancer has affected you or someone you love. I have a cancer story too. I lost my husband, Jay, to colon cancer in 1998, and my sister, Emily, to pancreatic cancer just 3 years later. In the years since, I have become a cancer advocate, helping to co-found Stand Up to Cancer, which has raised more than $600 million for cancer research. And of course, there's my on-air colonoscopy, which people still mention today. You know, the medical advancements made in cancer treatment over the past decade have been really remarkable. And today, people are living longer and living better with cancer. In 1998, there were 8 million cancer survivors in the United States. Today, there are more than 17 million Americans who are cancer survivors. We've made such great progress in helping people live longer with cancer, and NCCS works to ensure people are also living better with cancer, that their survivorship is one filled with activities that make them happy, surrounded by people they love, and that they have the opportunity to achieve their goals, big and small. The two awardees tonight carry on Ellen's legacy to make life better for cancer survivors, and I think she would be so proud of the progress made in survivorship because of their work. Cancer doesn't care what political party you're affiliated with. It doesn't care about the color of your skin, where you live, or how old you are. The awardees tonight are pioneers in transforming the cancer care system so that all survivors of cancer live better lives. And I'm grateful for the important work they do each and every day. Again, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Katie, for joining us tonight. Good evening and welcome to the Ellen L. Stovall Awards for Innovation in Patient-Centered Cancer Care. I'm Shelley Fold-Nasso, CEO of the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship, and I'm thrilled that you're here with us tonight to celebrate the work of two outstanding individuals, Dr. Julia Rowland and Dr. Tom Smith. We would love to be with you in person, mingling, sharing hugs, and eating the delicious food at the Four Seasons in Washington, D.C. But unfortunately, since that is not possible, we are so pleased to be with you virtually tonight to recognize these pioneers in patient-centered cancer care. We have a wonderful lineup of speakers tonight to help us honor these exceptional individuals, including members of Congress, Dr. Ned Sharpless, the director of the National Cancer Institute, Dr. Cliff Hudis, CEO of the American Society of Clinical Oncology, Dr. Doug Blaney, the inaugural Stovall Award winner and the chair of the selection committee, and others. I also had the chance to sit down with Congressman Jamie Raskin this week to ask him what to expect in 2021 from the Congress and the new administration. I want to take a moment to thank those who helped make tonight possible. ASCO has been an incredible partner, and we are proud that they are co-presenters of the Stovall Award this year. Thank you to Platinum sponsor Janssen Oncology and Pharmacyclics. I'm grateful to all of our sponsors and donors tonight who stood by us during these challenging times and who continue to lend their support to this program and to NCCS. This event would not be possible without you. Your contributions help us carry on Ellen's legacy, and for that we are deeply grateful. I want to thank Dr. Blaney for leading our selection committee and all of the committee members for lending their time and talents to the selection process. We had an incredible group of nominees this year, and choosing our winners from such an esteemed group of nominees continues to be a wonderful challenge. I also want to thank the Honorary Congressional Host Committee for recognizing the importance of cancer survivorship by lending their support to this event. And thank you to our dedicated board of directors for their leadership and commitment to NCCS. We are grateful to Ellen Stovall's family members who continue to support NCCS, especially her cousin, Lori Eisenberg, who serves on our board and keeps us connected to the extended Stovall Roos Katz family. In January, it'll be 5 years since we lost Ellen. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. She continues to be always in our thoughts, guiding our work, and we continue to strive every day to live up to her legacy. Ellen adored both Julia and Tom, and I believe she would be thrilled to see them recognized with an award in her name. I want to share with you some comments from Niraj Arora about our awardees. Dr. Arora is a cancer survivor, researcher, leader at the Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute, and former NCCS board member. He wrote, "I am so thrilled that the two of you are receiving Ellen's award this year. Julia, you have been a major influence in my life, and I credit you and Ellen in providing me with direction, guidance, and sense of purpose to transform my personal cancer experiences into facilitating the funding of meaningful patient-centered cancer research over the course of my career. Thank you for your mentorship, friendship, and innumerable hugs over the past 20 years. Tom, you are a hero to all cancer survivors, the most gentle and kind oncologist on this planet. The lessons you have shared with the world from your battles with cancer from both the patient and clinician's perspective have been invaluable. I continue to pray for your good health daily and feel fortunate to have had the opportunity to get to know you well over the past few years. You have made a significant impact on my current passion for improving the delivery and quality of palliative care. I wish you both the very best, lots of love, and yes, I miss Ellen dearly." Thank you again for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Each year, the committee receives nominations for the Stovall Award, recognizing nominees accomplished in their own fields. Several years ago, we discovered that recognizing only one awardee per year would not capture the breadth of the passion, the interest, and the accomplishments which Ellen brought to our field. The committee and NCCS recognized for the past several years 2 individuals, one a physician leader or other clinician, and one generally an advocate, organization, or other leader who advanced innovation and care of cancer survivors. I think that Ellen would see this as fitting, for in her own life and career, she accomplished more than any one person reasonably could. Ellen was an inspiration who brought us together and recognized each of our own strengths. So tonight, I congratulate our 2 awardees, thank NCCS for their advocacy and support, and thank those of you here tonight who make this work possible.
Good evening. We at the National Cancer Institute were delighted and honored to hear that Julia Rowland was awarded the 2020 Ellen Stovall Award for Innovation in Patient-Centered Cancer Care. What a terrific recognition for Julia, someone who has really made it her life's work to improve the lives of cancer patients and their families. And she is someone who has had an unwavering commitment in her pursuit to bring the individual needs of cancer patients to the forefront of cancer research and cancer care. Julia is really a pioneer in the field of cancer survivorship. She's co-authored or edited more than 100 articles on adult and pediatric survivorship issues. She co-edited the groundbreaking text Handbook of Psycho-Oncology, and she launched some of the first quality of life cancer clinical trials. And most importantly to us at the NCI, she became the founding director of our Office of Cancer Survivorship in 1999. Over her 18 years of marvelous federal service, she built a survivorship program from the ground up, championing the growth of survivorship research and care, supporting new and seasoned researchers in the field. And because improving the quality of life for all patients is really her mission, she always translated survivorship research for those patients and caregivers who can benefit from it the most in the real world. Julia continues to be a guiding force in this field. Her immense amount of work in the field has helped to lead to the understanding that survivorship is really an important thread that weaves through many areas of cancer research and delivery and has to be considered in all cancer clinical trials. No one understands better the complexity of this field of research, the progress we have made, and the challenges that really remain in the field of survivorship. And her legacy at NCI lives on today in our very strong Office of Cancer Survivorship. Since leaving the NCI, Julia has continued to transform cancer care for cancer survivors and their families through her work at the Smith Center, as well as her role on the NCCS advisory board. So congratulations, Julia, on this well-deserved honor.
Since the early days of her career, Dr. Julia Rowland has been on a singular mission to improve the quality of life for cancer survivors. It started with the first position she held in her postdoctoral fellowship at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. There, she helped to develop and then lead the innovative post-treatment resource program, which years later is still providing critical resources to cancer survivors. While at Memorial Sloan Kettering, along with her mentor, Dr. Jimmy Holland, she co-edited the first handbook of psycho-oncology.
I think Julia was talking about patient-centered care before that was even a term. She was bringing attention to these real-life aspects for people that, it wasn't just about their body that was impacted by cancer, their lives were impacted by cancer. And again, I think it was her research and her work and her advocacy for years, for decades, that I think helped to change the landscape of how people talked about cancer.
Through the years, Dr. Rowland has helped to develop and shape the field of psycho-oncology, which has resulted in the social and emotional needs of cancer survivors being addressed. She has worked as a clinician, researcher, and teacher, and has also been a tireless advocate for cancer survivors. In 1990, Dr. Rowland moved on to become the founding director of the psycho-oncology program at Georgetown University's Lombardi Cancer Center. And in 1999, she took a newly created position at the National Cancer Institute as the director of the Office of Cancer Survivorship, which Ellen Stovall was instrumental in creating. Dr. Rowland led the office until 2017. During her tenure, she championed investment in cancer survivorship research and raised public awareness about the health and quality of life needs of the growing population of cancer survivors and their families. The mentorship she has provided through the years has shaped the careers and the work of so many in the field and has helped to expand the cancer survivorship movement.
I was just so struck by Julia's energy, her positivity, the way people sort of spoke about her and using legendary type terms. And she not only helped me champion an effort to kind of create a research program around cancer caregiving, but she really mentored me and helped me to sort of take that forward, sort of cheering me along the way.
I am so grateful to Julia because she has been an inspiration for over 20 years of my life, not only from her clinical work, her publications, her research, her mentorship on my doctorate degree, her advice. We tended to think patients only needed our attention during treatment. Before that, and when she came into play, she made that area visible and attended to patients' needs after treatment, not only physically, but also psychologically, socially, professionally, to get back to their normal life as best as possible.
During her distinguished career, she has served on various volunteer boards, including NCCS, where she is a current board member, and has published broadly in many prestigious medical journals. She currently works as a senior advisor at the Smith Center in Washington, D.C., a nonprofit health, education, and arts organization.
I think she's for decades has been an example of how you can merge science with being an advocate for change, and how to use science to make life better for people.
She's this big profile woman in which she is a pioneer in the US and worldwide, and still she's so humble, so discreet, so gentle, and so generous at the same way.
She's helped us all recognize that cancer does not happen in isolation, that it has a ripple effect on families, on places of work, on communities. And I think that as a field of scientists, practitioners, advocates, and survivors and their families, I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to Julia.
Good evening. I am pleased to join you this evening to honor a dedicated and unwavering scientist for her work for cancer survivors. Dr. Julia Rowland has been an integral part of the progress made in cancer survivorship in the United States. She began her career in psychosocial oncology and has been a leader in the field as she focuses on aspects of cancer care that are critical to the lives of cancer survivors and their families. We in the district feel fortunate that Julia is a District of Columbia resident. Knowing that she is part of our DC community, working with organizations like the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship and ensuring that cancer survivors have a voice is comforting to me. Members of my own family have died from this disease. The growing number of cancer survivors is a testament to the advancement since to cure and control cancer. But this progress also makes the work that Dr. Rowland does even more critical. Cancer survivors deserve to live full, happy lives after their diagnosis and treatment. However, they often face physical, social, emotional, and financial hardships after their treatment. Speaking not only for DC residents, but for myself, we are grateful for the work Julia has done to shine a light on these issues while seeking solutions that help cancer survivors and their families after a cancer diagnosis. Congratulations to Dr. Julia Rowland for this well-deserved award, and thank you for all the important work you do to control and defeat cancer. I am pleased and honored to present the Ellen L. Stovall Award to Dr. Julia Rowland.
I was stunned, indeed speechless, when Shelley called and told me in October about the NCCS nominating committee's decision. I had no idea I was even being considered for this honor. Truly, I am humbled. The award has great meaning for me as Ellen was a cherished friend, deep source of inspiration, admired colleague, and luminary in so many ways. And to receive this award alongside Tom Smith, another of my survivorship heroes forever, what a gift. I'm indebted to Deborah Mayer for sending my name forward, and to Susan Lay and Mary McCabe, who wrote beautiful letters of support. Deb, Susie, and Mary, my heartfelt thanks. And to Brad, Aaron, and Lucia, what lovely, lovely words. To be honest, I've been periodically pacing my little home, trying to think of what I would, could, or should say in accepting this award, especially that would have meaning. I took breaks by obsessing over my wardrobe, unrefreshed since the pandemic struck, and fretting about what I could do possibly with my new COVID coiffure. Not much, as you can see. Surprisingly, Ellen herself said that she did not like public speaking. I say surprisingly because she was such a superb and truly gifted speaker. Clear, concise, compelling, always present and personal. You just wanted to do whatever she told you you needed to do. So I'm going to try for a moment to channel her now. While it's given to a person or persons, this award cannot really be to a person, or at least not this person. When I look back over my professional career, I see it as one in which I have had the great good fortune to be at the right place at the right time with some extraordinarily talented, committed, and, dare I say, driven people. The first intersect was when I chanced to meet Dr. Jimmy Holland in the spring of 1976. At the time, the field of psycho-oncology did not yet exist, much less cancer survivorship. She introduced me to the world of cancer from the patient's perspective, and I was hooked. The second major intersect was learning about and joining the newly founded NCCS. That was my introduction to patient advocacy, with the champion voices of Kathy Logan, Fitzhugh Mullen, Natalie Davis-Spingarn, Larry Moore, Selma Schimmel, just to name a few. And there have been many other critical intersects along my journey, but one of the most dramatic for me was created by Ellen herself, when she lobbied to have me hired as the first full-time director of the National Cancer Institute's Office of Cancer Survivorship, an office that you heard she also helped to create. She would assure me later that she thought the remark that clinched the deal with the NCI director at the time, Dr. Richard Klausner, was that I had a good sense of humor. That confluence of timing and people, here also including Dr. Barbara Reimer, head of the newly created Division of Cancer Control and Population Sciences, made it possible for me to champion a robust home for cancer survivorship research at the federal level. Along the way, I have been privileged to work with some of the best and brightest colleagues from a broad array of backgrounds and disciplines, but all with a common passion, trying to figure out how to reduce cancer-related morbidity and mortality, and ultimately, to do this through high-quality patient-directed care. Ellen's dream for us all. Nothing I have done would have been possible without the support, contributions, and engagement of each and every one of these people, individually and collectively. Yes, it does take a village, and this award belongs to them as well. But our work is not done. Last week, I attended another meeting convened by the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, formerly the Institute of Medicine, addressing cancer survivorship. This one, titled Addressing Adverse Consequences of Cancer Treatment, chronicled yet again the myriad challenges physically, emotionally, socially, and economically that many, if not most, cancer survivors face in the years after initial treatment. I could almost sense Ellen's head nodding next to me as they listed the issues that she herself confronted as a long-term survivor of Hodgkin's lymphoma, diagnosed when she was a new mother. 34 years ago, after the founding of NCCS, we still have much to do. I know that Ellen fully expects us to keep working on these issues until we get them right, until we truly comprehend what it means to evaluate and deliver quality, patient-centered care, and what it's going to take us to get there, especially by working collaboratively and by infecting, if I dare use that term these days, others at all levels with the passion to become advocates for those living with, through, and beyond cancer, Susie's perfect phrase. My one lament this evening is the absence of those who are not with us to celebrate. Ellen, most especially, but also Fitzhugh Mullen and Betsy Clark, whom we lost this past year, seminal NCCS members and leaders themselves who always came to this event. And my husband and our son, my two Bens, who are no longer with us to celebrate. From the bottom of my heart, I thank NCCS for honoring me with the Ellen L. Stovall Award, and I thank my family for being by my side all along the way, my joy, my bliss, my brilliant daughter Katie, genius with technology son-in-law Eddie, and my beloved grandchildren, Finn, Alma, and Luca. And finally, I love you, Ellen.
Good evening. My name is Samira Beckwith, and it is my honor to serve as chairperson of the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship. We want to thank you for joining us tonight as we honor these very special people who are leaders and innovators in ensuring that quality of life is at the forefront of cancer care for all cancer survivors. We know long-term side effects and complications from cancer treatment are no stranger to those of us who have lived with the illness. For me, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor, and this experience has made me very thoughtful about what I want to do with my one precious life. And that is one reason why my involvement with NCCS is very important to me personally. The treatments that we undergo make us understand that every moment is special and every day must be lived as fully as possible. I want to ask each of you to consider and to think about what you want to do with your one special life. Tonight, we are here to help raise funds for NCCS, the very special mission that we have as an organization to advocate for the 17 million people who live with cancer and their families. We need your funds and we need your support, like other organizations. And so, as you think about giving a gift to organizations that have a very important mission, I hope you'll consider and give a gift to NCCS. It's easy to do. It's on your screen. I've given, and I hope that you will join me. We want to be sure that each person who has cancer, each person who's a cancer survivor, their family members, all have the care that they need and they deserve, no matter what the side effects of their treatments are, and that they have the care and comfort that is available until cure is possible. Thank you for being here tonight.
Hello, my name is Dr. Clifford Heddes. Like this year's recipient of the Stovall Award, I too am a medical oncologist, but since 2016, I have served full-time as the Chief Executive Officer of the American Society of Clinical Oncology, or ASCO. In that capacity, I've been especially proud to sit on the selection committee for the Stovall Award. And today, it is a true pleasure to co-present it with the National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship to a colleague who exemplifies not just the skills, traits, and accomplishments that the Stovall Award is designed to highlight, but who leads the kind of life and career that sets a true standard for our profession. This year's recipient, Dr. Tom Smith, is a legend, not because of an early career discovery or the development of a new drug, but instead for his recognition for the need to see and support the whole patient throughout their life and treatment for cancer, whether curable or not. A more than 30-year member of ASCO, Dr. Smith has spent his career giving and then giving more. His passion for palliation in all forms has led him to serve on a number of ASCO committees and task forces. And among his many contributions and writings, Dr. Smith has also taught ASCO's Oncology Palliative Care course in countries all around the world, helping oncology providers in low and middle income countries especially develop locally relevant palliative care programs. In 2008, Dr. Smith was recognized with the ASCO Statesman Award for Outstanding Service. Today, we add a new distinction, the Ellen L. Stovall Award for Innovation in Patient-Centered Cancer Care. This recognizes Dr. Smith's contribution to the transformation of the cancer care system. To me, this seems like the most apropos recognition I could imagine for Dr. Smith. His passion for patients has been evident in every article he wrote and every lecture he delivered, but even more so in every patient he saw, treated, and connected with through his career. He worked for them and to make the world of medicine better for everyone. That is why we recognize him today. He is transforming cancer care, both in his clinical encounters and in the thousands of doctors and nurses he teaches and supports. Now, let's take a closer look at the impact Dr. Smith has made on the field of palliative care and in the life of his patients.
When you are in his presence, you immediately realize you are going to be okay. He doesn't promise you that he can save you, but just being in his presence, the way he talks to you, the way he talks about your situation and the way he has a plan for you that will, I am convinced, lead to success more often than not. And I can't describe the feeling. It's fantastic.
He is a pioneer and luminary in the field of palliative care, well known in the medical community for his expertise in symptom management, patient communication, and improving access to high-quality, affordable care. Dr. Tom Smith has been integral in the effort to develop palliative care guidelines and to train others in the field. His research has been widely published and is focused on everyday issues for cancer patients, like managing side effects, neuropathic pain, end-of-life care, and cost issues. Dr. Smith began his work in palliative care at the Massey Cancer Center at Virginia Commonwealth University, where he helped build an internationally recognized, award-winning palliative care program. After more than 20 years at VCU, he accepted a position as the Director of Palliative Care at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore.
Our palliative care program was very small, and we knew we had to change, and we knew Tom was the right leader for us. So on the clinical front, he built a team of clinicians that now expand not just to our patients in the Sidney Kimmel Cancer Center, but our patients clear across the hospital. He was key in multiple pivotal studies showing the benefits of palliative care on cancer survivors. And he's building the bandwidth so that future generations of cancer survivors will have the caretakers and the physicians they need.
Dr. Smith was just the physician that Sonny and Charlotte Heyman needed when they each faced a cancer diagnosis. Sonny first saw Dr. Smith when his melanoma had recurred, 6 months after his initial surgery.
It kept coming back. We had 5 surgeries because it kept coming back. And Dr. Smith was there every step of the way, and he had a plan for everything that happened to me. He had a solution. Then he quarterbacked my whole treatment process through numerous surgeries, radiation, interferon. He made arrangements for me to go to some of the best doctors that could be found. I'm cancer-free 17 years.
Before Sonny had finished his treatment for melanoma, his wife Charlotte was diagnosed with breast cancer. There was no doubt whom she would choose as her oncologist.
Have you ever met a person that as soon as you came in contact with him or her the first time, you thought to yourself, I'd like to be this person's friend? They're that down to earth, they are that compassionate, they're that very interested in you, but they have a gentleness of their spirit.
Maria Hall had been suffering from pain and other lingering effects from her breast cancer surgery and treatment 12 years ago when she found Dr. Smith.
I feel such a difference, and I needed that so bad because I have been in nothing but pain since all of this. This has been a very long journey for me. So to have someone like Dr. Smith to come in and assist the way he has assist with his patients and the treatments, it's been really wonderful. Very appreciative.
Dr. Smith knows firsthand what it's like to face serious medical issues. In 2016, the oncologist who had spent his whole career taking care of cancer patients faced a prostate cancer diagnosis of his own. His cancer recurred the following year, requiring more treatment, followed by a variety of debilitating side effects. He doesn't hesitate to share these experiences with his patients, who bond with him not only as their physician, but also as a fellow cancer survivor.
He is raw and open. He sent me messages about what it's like. That has made him a real person to other patients and to our staff throughout the hospital. He sort of is practicing what he preaches, and honestly, it's awe-inspiring. It's made us value him as a leader even more, that he would be that open about his own situation.
He cares. He's a doctor who cares. And when we need more like him.
Hi, I'm Chris Van Hollen, and I'm proud to represent the great state of Maryland in the United States Senate. And I want to salute all the survivors, advocates, and providers celebrating this evening as we honor the legacy of Ellen Stovall, a champion for every American touched by cancer. And as we also celebrate those who exemplify and share Ellen's dedication to improving cancer care and who reflect her special talent for leadership, empathy, and optimism. The National Coalition for Cancer Survivorship has selected a fellow Marylander, Dr. Thomas J. Smith, as one of this year's recipients of the Ellen L. Stovall Award. I know Dr. Smith is respected and renowned throughout the medical community for his ability to connect with cancer survivors and his commitment to addressing his patients' full needs. We know that cancer can take a serious toll on the physical, emotional, and social lives of survivors. And Dr. Smith's pioneering work on the front lines of palliative care has highlighted how physicians can alleviate the additional stress that often follows diagnosis and offer a better quality of life to patients. Dr. Smith has been a champion for all survivors through his effort to expand palliative care resources at Johns Hopkins and through educating colleagues on the benefits of a holistic approach to treatment that includes nurses, social workers, and other specialists. His deep commitment to this mission is rooted in his personal experience as a survivor himself of prostate cancer. He knows what it's like to receive a life-changing diagnosis. He has faced firsthand the challenges that so many in this community have been up against. And by sharing his own story, he's been able to show his patients that they're not alone. His mission is guided by a deep empathy for those touched by cancer and a commitment to improving the ways doctors and patients alike approach illness by focusing on honesty, compassion, and support. His career is an inspiration to us all. That's why I'm so pleased to present the Ellen L. Stovall Award for Innovation in Patient-Centered Cancer Care to a great Marylander, a great American, a talented oncologist, and a pioneer in palliative medicine, Dr. Thomas J. Smith.
It's a great honor to receive this award in honor of Ellen Stovall, who was a good friend. It's to be given to someone who demonstrated innovation in improving cancer care for patients in America. Ellen and I shared a great bond in trying to get the American Society of Clinical Oncology, ASCO, to pay attention to survivorship and to change the way oncology was practiced, or more precisely, how it was reimbursed. One of our consistent messages to ASCO was that oncologists should not be making big profits from buying and selling chemotherapy. Adequate compensation, of course, but not profits big enough to generate salaries of $1 million or more. Ellen could get away with this because of her street credibility and her moral compass that was always pointing true north. I just think of her as the notorious RBG of survivorship. Partly as a result of this, oncology salaries are now in line with the other medical specialties, as they should be, falling several $100,000. Well, as for me, it put me on the do not call list for many ASCO members. I can think of several things that Ellen was aware of during her life, as we talked at length really at every ASCO meeting and committee meeting. In 1987, two very freshly minted oncologists, the late Chris Desch and myself, along with two advanced practice nurses, started Virginia Commonwealth University Massey Cancer Center's Rural Cancer Outreach Program. We looked at the mortality time trends maps, how you were likely to survive based on where you lived. We saw huge disparities based on income, race, and distance to get adequate care. This is especially so in rural areas and areas with a substantial percent of African Americans. So the advanced practice nurses taught us doctors how to do a needs assessment. If you wanted cancer services at your small rural hospital, what would you want? As opposed to us just building a satellite office in their town. And it was very clear, talking to community leaders, docs in at the hospitals and nurses. These were all 50 to 100 bed hospitals, about 100 miles away from Richmond. They wanted a local clinic where people could get chemotherapy before or after work, get their surgery done locally, get their radiation done easily, get their CAT scans done locally. Part of that was so that the pathology and radiology revenue would stay at the local hospital. Therefore, the four of us started being circuit riders like old Methodist preachers. An advanced practice nurse and a doctor pair would go to rural Kilmarnock, Virginia, then South Hill, Virginia, down near the North Carolina border, Farmville, Virginia, Emporia in Peanut Country, and even near the West Virginia border, Buchanan General Hospital, way the heck out there in Grundy. We'd see the patients in the outpatient clinic or do consults in the hospital, usually both. Our advanced practice nurse colleagues trained 5 nurses who lived and worked locally how to be oncology nurses. In addition, people got their diagnosis and treatments at home. And these oncology nurses know everyone and they know everything about that patient's family. So if they know the person has to be at work at the 7-Eleven, they can make sure they'll get their chemotherapy before or after and not miss work. We did an analysis 2 years later. We showed better quality of care, and essentially nearly everybody who needed adjuvant or metastatic cancer treatment was getting it. Before that, you could only get it if you could travel, or more often if you could afford to travel 100 miles each way, miss work, etc. We also saw that the lumpectomy rate at these small rural hospitals went from 0 to 60%, which is right where it should be. And the use of opioids for pain management went to appropriate levels and stayed there. One of my colleagues at a very small rural hospital never used opioids until he met us. He would just give people massive doses of Thorazine so that they couldn't talk. We also started a radiation therapy van to each site to take travel out of the equation. So everyone would meet in the parking lot at 9 o'clock. They'd drive up to MCV, VCU at the Massey Cancer Center. Then you'd hop off for radiation. There'd be no waiting. And then when you're done, you'd hop right back on. I likened it to a hop-on, hop-off, hop-on sightseeing bus, only with radiation in exchange. Each of the rural hospitals had over $1 million profit that could then be used to support some of the things that they couldn't afford, like labor and delivery, which were clearly money losers. And we estimated in the first 2 years, we saved well over 2 million miles of patient travel. In addition, these rural hospitals could fulfill their mission because with those profits, they could treat poor people who didn't have any insurance, who otherwise would have to go, if they could, to a big academic center. And finally, the rural cancer outreach nurses actually won the Nurse of the Year award from the Oncology Nursing Society for the great work that they do and did. And I'm happy to say that the program is still going strong, albeit configured differently. When the late Chris Desch and I set up the program, we wanted to make it into an effective program that could stand on its own and would be so attractive that someone else would come in and actually buy the practice or take it over so that it could keep going and we could go on to do other things. And that's exactly what's happened. The second area that Ellen and I often discussed was the cost of care. Costs skyrocketed in the early 1990s, and then they skyrocketed again in the early 2000s. And you might have noticed that today, that we're giving people that may cost $14,000 a month or $50,000 a month or even $150,000 for a single injection. And we both realized, even 30 years ago, that not everyone could get everything given a limited budget. My part was to work on multiple cost-effectiveness projects so that we could rank what was a reasonable use of society's dollars. And Ellen, again showing her true North moral compass, was very much involved in ASCO's interest in cost and the Choosing Wisely campaign. You might say, well, how has this all worked out? How's this worked out for you? Because costs are still on the board, and they will continue to be, but at least we got our Oncology Society thinking and acting about it before a lot of other professional societies. The last effort that Ellen supported was the growth of palliative care, especially alongside usual cancer care. Ellen really was for anything that was patient-centered, family-centered, giving honest information about what was possible or not medically possible if people wanted such information, fixing symptoms, and allowing cancer survivors to live better lives for longer. A few of us were really considered the lunatic fringe back in the 1990s, early 1990s, before palliative care even became a specialty. Charles van Gunten, Jamie von Rowland, David Weissman, a couple of others, myself, we actually thought it was important to do careful symptom assessments, fix what we could, and surprisingly give honest information about prognosis. Being honest engenders hope, and finally, promise to be with the patient and family no matter what happened. One of my research colleagues calls that a specific statement of non-abandonment, which is too hard to say. But we say, even if you aren't getting chemotherapy, we're here for you. We'll be with you every step of the way. And let's talk about hospice for if and maybe when you need it, so that that can be a planned transition if the cancer doesn't respond. I can tell you in my own practice, this has made it much easier to eventually transition to hospice. And if somebody recovers remarkably, they'll have their planning done. I've never had anybody come up to me 3 years later and said, that was the wrong thing to make all those plans back then. She would have loved my temporary tattoo. We've now given about 10,000 of these away, and I have it here on my wrist so I can look at it sort of like a quarterback, because these are the toughest questions that oncologists have to ask. And it's how do you like to get medical information? Are you the sort of person who wants all the details or something else? And number two, what's your understanding of your situation? That's the only way we're ever going to find out whether they think they're maybe treatable but not curable when in fact they could be cured, or maybe they're persisting in thinking about being cured when in fact you know that their time is becoming shorter and they should be planning for other things. Number three, what's important to you? Number four, what are you hoping for? And number five, have you thought about a time in the future when you might be sick enough to need an advance directive or a living will? I would add a sixth one, or maybe one for this arm, that says, how are you coping? And then ask the family, how are you coping with Dad being so ill? Another really simple, easy way to engender good, open, honest communication. We didn't think back then that this was anything normal. This was just what good oncologists did. In addition, when the multiple randomized clinical trials, the first one of Jennifer Temmel, supported by the American Society of Clinical Oncology, showed that oncology plus palliative care gave better results than usual oncology care, ASCO fully recommended this approach in a national guideline. Better symptom management, less anxiety, less depression, much more reasonable understanding of what prognosis, and despite that, less anxiety and less depression, less caregiver distress. And in some of the trials, people actually lived substantially longer. Now, nearly all large hospitals have palliative care programs, and the approach we pioneered in cancer care has spread successfully to cardiac care, pulmonary care, ALS care, and a host of other medical situations. In fact, I haven't found a single trial where adding palliative care harmed anything or any medical specialty. Ellen would be very proud. There are way too many people to thank without making a long, long list. Ellen, of course, and her friend and triple cancer survivor, now the late Terry Langbaum, my great colleagues at the Virginia Commonwealth University Massey Cancer Center, my similarly great colleagues at the Johns Hopkins Sidney Kimmel Comprehensive Cancer Center and at Johns Hopkins Hospital, which has been our home for the past 9 years. And in addition, of course, my family, my wife, Dr. Joanne Badertha, and our daughter, Anna Jo Smith, who is a budding gynecologic oncology surgeon at the University of Pennsylvania. Thank you very much.
I'm pleased today to have Congressman Jamie Raskin, who represents the 8th District in Maryland, joining us today. Ever since his election in 2016, he's been a wonderful friend to NCCS. His district includes the National Institutes of Health and the National Cancer Institute, and it includes the NCCS offices in Silver Spring, Maryland. Congressman Raskin, you've been such a great friend to NCCS, attending our events. You've come to our advocate symposium in the summer to help fire up our advocates before they go to Capitol Hill to talk about the priorities that are important to cancer survivors. So we're really grateful to you for joining us today. I just wanted to ask you a few questions about what's coming up. We have had elections recently. We have a new incoming administration. We have tighter margins in the House, and the Senate is still, to be determined, the leadership of the Senate after runoffs in January. So what do you think we can expect as far as health policy and how Congress and the new administration will work together come January 2021?
Shelley, I'm delighted to be with you, and I am the congressman from NCCS, as well as the NIH and NCI. So you're very close to my heart, and I'm delighted to be with you again, although it's virtually this year, but I'm sending all my best to all my friends out there. Look, I think we're going to see a sea change in attitude and atmosphere and feeling, regardless of whether or not the Democrats are able to take the House. And of course, that's what I'm working for and rooting for. Or whether, the Republicans maintain that, whether the Democrats take the Senate or whether the Republicans retain the Senate. The Democrats are in control in the House, although we do have a slimmed down margin, as you point out. I think that, we're going to have an administration in Biden and Harris that is adamant about public health and that is serious about public health and is going to be making the investments that we need in health science research. And that is going to do everything that they can to wrestle the disease to the ground and to extinguish the disease and to promote a vaccine and generally to get on top of public health after a period of really lackadaisical, irresponsible leadership, I think. So, we're all going to have to be on our best behavior because the Democratic majority in the House is razor thin. Within the Democratic caucus, we're going to have to not engage in a series of recriminations and finger pointing, but rather try to develop a unified public philosophy, which to my mind is all about saying the federal government is not an instrument of self-enrichment, but the federal government has got to be an instrument of the common good and the public interest and put public health right at the center of it.
Right. Well, and we hear from cancer survivors that, the pandemic's challenging for everyone, but when you have a condition like being a cancer survivor where you have more concerns about your health, it's even more challenging to get through this time. And now that we've got cases rising, and you're a cancer survivor, you've continued to work throughout this. How do you manage, your own concerns about your health as you do your job and serve the public?
Well, cancer survivors have kind of a double relationship here. On the one hand, cancer survivors and people who are still actively struggling with the disease need the resources of government and need a healthcare system that works, and so are terribly susceptible to breakdowns in public strategy, public communications. On the other hand, people who are cancer survivors also are among the most resilient and durable people in the country and know that we can get through hard times and know how to use the resources that are available in order to survive and flourish. So, I've heard from so many cancer survivors during this period who have really hung tough and have become like bulwarks of support for other people, both people struggling with cancer, but also for people just generally dealing with unemployment, the economic dislocation, and all of the problems attendant to COVID-19.
Yeah, the resilience I think is so important, and you're right that the cancer survivors understand that because they've been through that experience. So I know before you became a member of Congress, you were a constitutional lawyer, and I'm guessing you probably follow what's been going on with the Affordable Care Act case, and there were oral arguments at the Supreme Court, and some of the justices seem to tip their hand a little bit in how they ask questions. So what are your predictions about what will happen with this court case and the Affordable Care Act?
Well, remember, Chief Justice Roberts had essentially saved the ACA when he said that the penalties in the ACA for not participating in the system were in essence a tax, and so it was an exercise of the taxing power of Congress, even though he agreed with the four other conservatives that this was not a legitimate exercise of the Commerce Clause power. So then Congress repealed the penalties. And then the question became, well, does that mean that this is no longer a constitutional exercise by Congress? And is that basically the straw that breaks the camel's back? And the fear was that Justice Barrett was being put on the court precisely for that reason. I don't know if she liked being used in that way, but Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett both were skeptical that the mere repeal of one part of the ACA actually became the basis for destroying the whole thing, which clearly is what the administration was arguing for. And so it looks like, for whatever reason, it may be jurisprudential, it may be political, there are a couple of the more conservative justices who will join with the liberals to say that this is not the end of the Affordable Care Act. If Congress had wanted to do it, it would have done it directly. In fact, we had entertained numerous efforts to simply repeal the ACA, and we had not done that. And so the repeal of just that one provision on the penalty should not be transmuted into the larger repeal.
Well, we are looking forward to working with you in the next Congress, and we've been advocates for the Affordable Care Act because it has provided such important protections for cancer survivors, and we'll look forward to continuing to work with you and all of Congress to strengthen it and continue to provide access to health insurance for cancer survivors.
And I feel the same way. Tens of millions of people, healthcare is at stake there, and so we don't want to see it repealed either by Congress or by the courts. We want to be expanding the ACA and expanding people's access to healthcare. If COVID-19 has taught us nothing else, it's that everybody's healthcare is connected to everybody else's.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to working with you next year.
Shelley, the pleasure is all mine, and please say hello to everybody for me.
We will. What an amazing evening. Thank you to everyone who helped us to honor Dr. Rowland and Dr. Smith tonight. From the people who nominated them, the selection committee who chose them, and everyone who spoke tonight on their behalf. And I love Dr. Smith calling Ellen the notorious RBG of cancer survivorship. I think I'm going to remember that one, and I think that Ellen would like that moniker. I also want to thank our incredible staff who made this event happen tonight, despite the challenges of working remotely. It turns out that pulling off a virtual event is just as much work, if not more, than an in-person event. They are also hard at work preparing for our Cancer Policy Roundtable tomorrow, as well as all of our other programs. Our work has continued through the pandemic as the needs of cancer survivors have increased. This year, we launched a new website, conducted and released the 2020 State of Cancer Survivorship Survey, started a podcast, and completed a project on telehealth, all in addition to the other work we were doing. I like to say that we are a small but mighty staff. We rely on the support of people like you to do our work. If you have already donated, thank you. You can still donate using the link on your screen. Before I leave you tonight, I want to tell you about a wonderful gift we received at NCCS recently. All of us on the NCCS staff are working remotely, but I go into the office about once a week, usually when I have to give presentations, so I can be sure not to have interruptions from kids and dogs. Recently, when I was at the office, I opened a package from a cancer survivor named Gordon Crum from Ajo, Arizona. In a letter he wrote, I spent the 1970s as a potter, and now I'm spending my 70s as a potter as the keystone to my recovery process. He sent a gorgeous vase he made, a gratitude vase. He wrote, I am grateful for the work all of you do. When I suggest NCCS to cancer folk, I describe you as the most level-headed people in the cancer world. It is my hope that when the current chaos passes, cancer will be one of the common ground areas that we can use to learn how to work together again. Almost everyone is touched by cancer in some way. I pray that COVID has a silver lining in that the increased awareness of the hidden dangers, suffering, and grief will help push cancer care forward. Gordon's letter suggested to write down what I am grateful for and put it in the vase. Tonight, I am grateful to Tom Smith and Julia Rowland for their incredible contributions to cancer care and cancer survivorship, and to each and every one of you for joining us and supporting NCCS in our work. Thank you and good night.